Today's episode's brought to you by Overwatch League. Holy crap, it's actually here.
It's high noon.
Everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, And again, we don't usually do it, but I've got to say it here. We are on episode 100.
We did it. Last one. Wait,
yeah, the last one. I pretend I promise this isn't political, but Excelsior! I just got to say Excelsior for that. It's just 100, man. Did you ever think we were going to get there?
I mean, I didn't know we would want to get here. I knew we could get here, but like it was just so iffy with the last one. It was so draining and so tiring.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if putting out a podcast was just actually that exhausting or not, but it turns out when the game's good and you enjoy the game, actually, it's fun to keep doing them. Like it doesn't wear off after 20 episodes.
It turns out that it's not podcasting that's tiring. It's Hearthstone. And Deathblow.
My Discord reset itself completely. Like the craziest, weirdest thing ever. I clicked in the window and it like reset, went to the loading screen.
Episode 100, and he's out of here.
I'm done. I told you last one. That was it. It was a quick one.
But even though Deathblow decides to just randomly cut out while we're still in the intro of the show. Yeah, you're in it. It can't happen on around the payload though. Actually, it can now because no, it actually can't. But we have a lot to talk about. So let's jump right into it. So first things first, we've got our Pick'em League, which we've definitely talked about. Right? It's been a thing since the last episode. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure either. What I do know is since the last time we got called out a little bit. So one of the other man, I'm blanking completely on
Overwatch League Network is doing one.
Yes, yeah, Overwatch League Network.
They called us out.
Called us out, said they wanted to have the biggest podcasters featured league on this website. We decided that we should probably have that. So a little friendly competition amongst podcasts.
The website's called High Noon Pick'em.
Right,
affiliated with High Noon Podcast, but
I don't know if that's an unfair advantage or not. But I know I love unfair advantages, so I will take it if it is one.
I love them like half the time.
Yeah, when
we're on the good half of it,
right? When they're in our favor, yeah. And we did up the prizes a little bit, so now we're looking at a first place prize of you get a High Noon Podcast T-shirt, you get an Overwatch League team hat of your choice. You get 20 loot boxes, and you get a free subscription to the High Noon Podcast Twitch channel. At second place, you now get 20 loot boxes and a free High Noon Podcast Twitch sub. And in third place, you get 10 loot boxes and the Twitch subs. So up their game a little bit here, added in a little bit more merch, a little Overwatch League merch in there, which I like, obviously, as well. And if we can get it up over 200 people before the start of the season, that means we're going to be releasing this episode on Tuesday this time, which is a little different. It's to give you guys an extra day to try to listen to the episode and catch the content before, the matches that we're previewing are just like live. We don't want them to be live 4 hours after we drop the episode. Right. So we're upping things a day. So that means you have until tomorrow,
so to speak. You're welcome for that.
Yeah, thanks, bro. But yeah, so we're going to be keeping this open to increasing prize pool for basically one full day after this episode releases. So make sure you get in there and also get all of your fake email accounts in there as well if you want a chance at more.
Yeah, I want to be the biggest one, period. Not just the biggest podcaster one. I want to be the biggest one. And we're a little bit behind right now, but I know you guys, and I know you can do it. I know that you're the most devoted fans out there. So definitely do that. And speaking of most devoted fans, we're doing another giveaway, and it's just like giveaway season right now. Our pinned tweet on Twitter is our giveaway link, the Gleam page there. You can get a free Overwatch League jersey of your choice for that, and there's also some other prizes on there. That one, all you need to do is just hit the links, click the links, sign up, all that good stuff that Gleam makes it so easy to do. Head over there and do that. But let's move right along to what did we do last week? Deathblow, anything fun and exciting happening for you?
No, my team lost a football game, but it was a playoff game, so I'm actually perfectly happy about it.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?
Talk about playoffs?
Yeah, it was a tough game. Like, it was one of the most defensive games you could ever see. Thankfully, it was still like, but there was still I'm blanking on the right word here. There was still like anticipation to it or whatever.
Yeah, it was still excitement.
Like intrigue. Yeah, it was a closely contested game. It was a lot of fun. I don't get to watch Bills playoff games very often, so I won't complain. But next year when we get back, I'll start to complain about losing there.
Right.
And it really, honestly, it was just like my whole week. I couldn't think. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. I was like, oh, football. Like everything was all about the playoff game. So that's behind me. And if I'm being perfectly honest, as much as I wanted to win and move on, it was just like I was going to conflict with Overwatch League, and I want to sit down and watch that. And if it was a matter of like watching the Houston New York match or the Bills playoff game, I have no idea what I would have done. So I'm at least spared that, which is
making Sophie's choice.
Right, the silver lining. I'll just take the silver lining and run. How about you? What'd you do this week?
Well, I did watch the end of that playoff game. I saw, I think, the last, 6 or 7 minutes, maybe more than that, of the fourth quarter. And I will say, I think I saw more punts than yards gained by either team. So that gives you an idea of the kind of defensive nature of the game. But in regards to Overwatch, I actually played my placement matches, which was nice. We played actually a few at the beginning. I think we started off 3-0. And then I actually played a couple more the next day and was up to 5-0. And then I rattled off a couple of losses. I rattled off 3 losses in a row and then won the last 2. So I ended up 7-3 in placements, and I actually placed at I think 2250, maybe 2270, something like that. So like basically like an extra 100 points of what I was the previous season. So that felt really good. Of course, the first I think 4 or 5 real matches I played, I just lost. Like not even games played. It was just like levers and trolls and just complete garbage.
That's because you're playing without your pocket Hanzo, man.
I know. I did message you a couple times to see if you wanted to play, but you were doing work or something stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, it was podcast work. Nothing important.
No, definitely. We definitely don't have multiple new shows that have come out in the past month, which we will in fact talk about.
Also, a brand new one we've never mentioned to you guys before.
That's true.
So keep an ear out for that. We'll leave it as a teaser though.
Well, we're going to talk about it in this. We're going to talk about it in this episode, though.
Yes.
Okay. So keep listening, you people in future, past, present podcast land. But of course, with the what did you guys do last week? We're of course going to go to my favorite segment of the show.
Overwatch Today, meme of the week.
That, of course, is your meme of the week. And this one, this is an untraditional one. So the story behind this is Overwatch League tweeted out are you guys, how hyped are you guys for Season 1 of Overwatch League to start? Respond to us with a GIF. I, of course, used my Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live. I want Holyfield. I want Holyfield. One of my favorite just moments ever. One of my favorite moments ever in SNL and Chris Farley history is that skit. Definitely watch it. And literal Overwatch Today responds with just the best and just most creepy, hilariously just odd Mike Tyson gif, just like looking straight into the camera and giving just like a little like tooth smile. It was great. So definitely check that one out. And I got to say, Overwatch League has definitely, the Overwatch League Twitter has definitely been putting out some, I mean, it's kind of vanilla content because, you know, it's a sports league and they're not going to do anything too crazy, but they put out some fun and engaging stuff. So that's always good. But let's move on. We've got some news that has happened in the scene, not necessarily, obviously not related directly to the playing of Overwatch League, because that's not happening. It's happening tomorrow, people. Unless you're listening live, then it's happening in 2 days, but you already know that. So we had the Shanghai Dragons coach was Shanghai Dragons coach U4 was fined for account sharing and communication with opposing players from the Chinese scene reportedly involved promising underage players future spots in the Shanghai Dragons without consulting with the team management. Fine of almost $10,000. What do we take from this, Death? Like, what? It's just
we take
crazy.
that people are really, really stupid sometimes, and they do things that just don't make any sense. Like, who was this not going to piss off? U4? I don't understand. Like, this was going to upset the Shanghai Dragons. This was going to upset the young players you were talking to. This was going to upset the Overwatch League, and it was going to gain you nothing. So I don't get this one at all. Eat your fine. You deserve it. I don't know. That's all I got to say on that one.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree for the most part. My one concern, and I didn't see any like transcripts or anything of what actually transpired, but like I could see this being like if they're talking to a Chinese player that wants to play on the Overwatch League and you're U4 and you're just making an offhanded comment about how, oh, we'll definitely have a spot for you when you play. I could see it being taken wrong. I doubt that that's I doubt that's the case.
I mean, what you just outlined to me is against the rules, and he should know better.
I don't know. I'm not denying that that's the case.
Yeah, but I don't know that what you described is $9,000 against the rules. But
right,
we don't have a whole lot of basis to judge these fines on.
And I mean, I think about like college basketball and stuff, and people get destroyed by that. Although I have a different opinion about whether college athletes should get paid, but that's a completely different topic for a show that's not this one. Yeah, I mean, know the rules, don't do something stupid, especially when it probably doesn't stand to benefit you whatsoever. Like, unless, like, especially like, do you really need to incentivize young Chinese players from wanting to play on China's only team? Like, seriously, There's no Chinese players on any other team in the Overwatch League right now that I know off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure there's not, because especially since I've been looking at Overwatch League rosters incessantly since something happened, which we'll talk about in a second. But I don't know. The takeaway here is don't be stupid and know the rules of Overwatch League. And if you're not sure if what you're doing is against the rules or not, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
And if you're, and just a quick word, if you're a player in a scenario where somebody is telling you something like this, whether it's a contender spot, whether it's a roster spot, anything, like, that's not how this works. People don't have these things just waiting for you. Nothing has your name on it. Anybody tells you that, they're probably lying to you in almost all circumstances. And before you sign anything or agree to anything, call our buddy Ryan Morrison and have a conversation.
I was going to say
lawyer
up every time, every single time. You got to think about who is incentivized by the things that are happening. And if it's not you, you should probably have someone who's working on your behalf. So, so that's that. Another piece of news. This is show-related news, as well as I suppose we would probably be talking about it even if it wasn't our show that was doing it. But Kevin Chu, aka the owner of the Seoul Dynasty, and as a note, not Michael Chu, the lead writer for Overwatch. It's already been confused in our Discord. But we're having him on the next High Noon Hot Seat. He's actually going to be on Wednesday, so the same day as Overwatch League. We booked him right before they're going to be playing matches, so that's really awesome of him to come on and talk with us. That's going to be at 5 Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. So watch the interview live and then just sit back, relax, and watch some Overwatch League. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we'll probably release it Thursday or Friday. Interviews are nice content that can be put out in the middle of the league week and stuff like that. So, you know, I would expect to see the interviews drop during the actual, you know, the play week while the matches are active in the future. But really, really excited. I think we know definitively I won't be there for that one. So it's going to be a solo Blevins interview. I won't get the option or the opportunity to say this later on, but just a big thanks for coming on and spending the time. You know, he's got so much going on, Kevin does. And like you said, it's the day the matches start, like he's got a lot on his plate. Really appreciate him taking the time. And second last one, we're crossing off the list, right? Makes 11 teams now we'll have had 12. A representative of on the show.
We can get you 4 on the team, maybe, on the show.
Well, he wasn't suspended, so we don't know that he has just time, free extra time on his hands. He's probably got less free time because he's got to work to make up all.
Right, he's going to have to be an Uber driver in the afternoons. But yeah, huge shout outs to Kevin for coming on. Been super cool, and actually has like taken to the Discord like more than I think any other guest has.
Oh,
like,
he's been awesome
already, like in the Discord and asking questions. And one funny moment that's already happened. We, of course, and this is a note, if you do want to ask him questions about Soul Dynasty, the team, anything that has to do with that, head over to the Discord and put them in the hot seat questions channel. But he's been hanging out in there, just like answering people's questions like willy nilly, which is awesome.
Especially since we don't always get to all the viewer submitted ones. So above and beyond so far from Kevin. Can't wait to hear the interview.
Absolutely. I'm super excited about that. But speaking of super excited, guess what's out, Death? Take a guess. It's the Overwatch League official app.
I know, it just gave me this notification that the Soul Dynasty versus the New York Excelsior is live.
Yeah, I got those notifications too. It's just playing the preseason, I guess.
Yeah, some bugs in it, but honestly, it looks awesome. It looks exactly like what we were promised. You get to like select your favorite teams. I chose each of ours there, if you can see the camera. If not, you know, you'll have to check it out on your own. But all the articles are there, just purely better than going to the website and having to fight through the web browser and stuff there. So awesome job, timely release, A+ Blizzard.
Yeah, and really, I can't wait for it to have more functionality. The one thing that we saw posted in some of the Discords, but we as non-Apple users can't actually experience, is if you are, I think if you're using iMessage or whatever the Apple text message app is, if you have the Overwatch League app downloaded, you'll get Overwatch League specific emojis and stickers that you can post in your message app. So
be right back. Need to drop $1,000 on an iPhone.
Yeah, no,
I'm lying. I would never do that.
Absolutely not. Even if I just got one for free, I still wouldn't want to use it. I love my Google Pixel. But yeah, so definitely download that. Favorite your favorite teams. And I'm honestly like looking forward to the other stuff that they're going to add to it. I'm hoping it's going to be. I mean, obviously the stats page is what we want. I think the most.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Other stuff too. I mean, even just the articles. Like unless they're reposted on Reddit, like I'm not going on the Overwatch League website every day and checking like the content that they're posting.
Right. Yeah, and there's been some really good content on there too, and like I missed it, and every now and then I like go there and realize, oh, I should look at these articles. Like I'm not used to not used to coming here to look for things. So it'll definitely help us keep track of that. But Blevins, you mentioned stats.
I did. And with stats comes great responsibility. And by responsibility, I mean fantasy Overwatch. And we have it now, man.
Yeah, you cut out, so I don't know what you said we have. But
we have fantasy Overwatch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Winston's Lab. Round of applause, by the way, for everybody over at Winston's Lab. Did a really good job. Pushing this out. You know, this is something like we don't have stats. These guys have gone out of their way, gone above and beyond since the beginning of Overwatch. I don't know how long we've been plugging their website and their stats and using them to supplement our content. And they've gone above and beyond again here. And they pushed out, and listen, it's not perfect. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat this. All it is it's a playable version of Overwatch, the Fantasy Overwatch League. Okay. It's not the ideal version. It's not perfect. It's literally, it's like alive right now because they're constantly adding things as we use it. Every time I go there's a new feature. But it's a whole lot of fun. I know the Discord community and our Discord has really taken to it. Just looking at the number of leagues that have been started, the community as a whole is really taking to it. So Fantasy Overwatch is here, and I'm super excited about it. I'm sure I mentioned that I went undefeated in my Dynasty League this year, and I didn't want that to end. Like, I've been really upset that fantasy football is over. It takes a large chunk of my my focus and my attention when it's up, because I have so much fun with it, and I'm really happy that I can just transition it right on over into Fantasy Overwatch League. And with that said, Blevins, I know we've talked about it before, and especially when we've been interviewed on other shows, my background, where I started podcasting, was a fantasy football podcast. And I feel like I finally get to come home again. And I think you went to bed last night, and then you woke up and I'd created a new show, and I got everything ready to go. So I'm really, really happy to tell you guys we are going to be doing a new show called Foul Play, Fantasy Overwatch League Play. It'll be hosted by the two of us as well as A Smith. So you guys have heard that name a lot. Really, really excited to get him on air and able to talk to you guys a little bit. You know, you've seen him on the pilot of Around the Payload, but we wanted to try to give him a more regular, steady avenue to kind of start podcasting and doing these things. And you know, he showed some interest, and so he's going to be the third host on that show. It should be fun. The first episode will be recorded today, right after this one. So if you're listening live, you should be able to stick around. It's not going to be on YouTube, I don't think, for the first couple episodes. It's all so last minute, right? But like, we need to rush and put something out. Otherwise, we can't talk to you guys about the draft strategy. We can't talk to you guys about week one, and we just kind of got to pick it up randomly later on. So it was really important to me to get an episode out this week. So we're going to record one, and it'll honestly, in all likelihood, already be there because I'm going to drop it tonight and not wait until tomorrow. So keep an eye on your podcast feeds. It should already be there. Just go one episode back from what you're listening to right now, and you should be able to hear the very first episode of Foul Play.
Yeah, it's one where I honestly have not been a huge fantasy football or even like basketball or baseball player, but I've always there's always been something about it that I've just wanted to. I love the show, the league. I even love stats, but like baseball, it's just too much work. Basketball, I think the league I joined was just kind of stupid and it didn't matter. And then football, I just don't care enough about football. So you take all those bad factors are not the case for me for Overwatch. Like, I'm really watching all the games. I'm obviously extremely involved in the community and with Overwatch itself, and love Overwatch. So like, I'm super, super, super excited about Fantasy Overwatch League, and the show is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be another avenue for us to be even more unique and casual in what we're doing.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say for sure. Like, we get to goof around and joke around a lot more on this one. We're going to do a lot of like goofy games. We're just going to put like oddball restrictions on ourselves for no reason and talk out our reasoning behind it. Like, listen, I mean, I can sit here and tell you I could be the #1 grossing DraftKings fantasy football earner, and it wouldn't give me a step up for Fantasy Overwatch League, right? We don't have a backlog of stats to look at. We don't have past games from these teams. We don't have anything to go on. All we have is what we think's probably going to be the case and the rules of the game. So we're going to just learn it with you guys, and we're going to try to have a really good time with it. If it takes off, we might do things like player rankings, stuff like that. But we're going to just take it slow and try to have a lot of fun with it and just discuss it and be ready as the game and as the platform gets fleshed out. As it improves, we'll improve the show. We're going to borrow a lot of the High Noon branding, stuff like that. Like I have like the worst logo ever created for it. We'll use it,
pretty
but
good,
whatever.
Though. It's pretty good.
I mean, it's a good concept.
Ooh.
It's just sloppily done.
Actually, hold on. I just thought of an idea. Actually, you know what? I'll save it for the show because we're not going to.
Okay.
It's an antics type of thing, and we'll save the antics for the actual show.
Gotcha. Yeah, and already we're going over on this episode. I can tell you right now, we'll be long on this one just because of how much there is to do.
We're still basically in the intro level of this, the intro portion of the show, essentially.
We'll be relearning the format a little bit here, but real quick before we get into things, the format for the regular episodes is going to be your old tournament talk section where we talk about last weekend's tournament or whatever. It's going to be the same thing. We're going to talk about the previous week's matchups, not all of them, but the close ones. We'll go over a couple,
the big ones. Any
talking points. Things like that. And then we'll have our usual let's break it down section where we'll look ahead and talk about every single match that's coming up. And I don't know about you, Blevins, but I'm ready to move into that right now.
Yeah, so why don't we?
Oh, let's break it down!
Ooh, man, it feels good to hit that button and be able to talk about actual Overwatch League that is coming up. Woo! I'm excited about this.
Getting all stretched out, ready to go.
I know. Ooh. One high, yeah. 5 points for anyone who gets that reference.
Is this where we do our vocal warm-ups too? Unique new. Oh no, we should have done that before the episode.
Definitely should have. I think I pulled a vocal cord. Vocal cord. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. But first match of the season, I almost said preseason. First match of the season is going to be Shock versus Valiant, Dorado, Anubis, Ilios, Anumbani. Death, what's this looking like? What are we taking away here?
Sure. So on the Shock side of things, the very first thing I want to know was Baby Bay an apparition, right? Like he looked so good in the preseason. He gave us reason to think that he could fill one of the biggest voids that they had on the team. And he gave us a lot of hope, and I need to see him continue that, right? Because there's I brought them out of the basement, but I haven't brought them far out of the basement yet. Like they're still decidedly on the ground floor of this house.
They're on the way up.
It is the Overwatch League, but they're moving up, and I need to see them continue that. So Baby Bay played at a very high level in the preseason. I want to see him maintain that. Additionally, Nevix proved just how flexible he can be and played an adequate off tank. I need to see better than adequate. Okay, this is a matchup against kind of the presumptive 6th seed, right? Like if you buy Houston at 5, kind of the average 6th spot goes to the Valiant here. So this is theoretically a playoff team, and if the Shock want to convince us that they have the ability to be a playoff team, they need to continue to improve at the off tank spot, grind out some wins, and just stack up a couple of them, be there for when the roster unlocks.
Right.
On the opposite side, the Valiant are, like I said, projected as a playoff team. So if that's true, they have to win this game, right? Like this is a team that they're
supposed to win.
Yeah, that's gonna be a theme. It's gonna be something that comes up in 3 or 4 more of these. Win the games that you're supposed to win if you are going to live up to your identity. Opinions are going to change fast and furiously,
very fast
over the first month of this season.
Yep.
So when you're faced with an opponent that you have a good opportunity to beat, you have to make sure you get it done. Lastly, the Valiant are going to be adding agilities. We only saw Silk Thread in the regular season, so can agilities give them something else? Silk Thread played really, really well. Can agilities level them up, even if it's not all the time? Is it some of the time? For this match, give me the LA Valiant to win 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with all the takeaways you had. My other question for San Francisco Shock is, does IDDQD show up? He like literally didn't show up in the preseason. Was fine, but then like literally was planning on only playing the one match and went on actual vacation. So literally didn't show up. In other interviews I don't even remember where it was, but on other interviews, I think it might have actually been Dogman's show. Doesn't matter. On other interviews, IDDQD has said like he's got something to prove, right? The NRG roster was a flop, like, and he would admit that. Not necessarily because of the talent pool they had on paper, because on paper they looked great. But you know, when that team with him and Siegel and all the other players, when that team fails, you know, people are going to look at Siegel. People are definitely going to be looking at him as well, because he's been so good. in other spots. So does IDDQD show up, and in what way? I agree. Was the Baby Bay thing, was that an anomaly? Is he really that good? And then where are they setting themselves up for that mid-season where they, quote unquote, level up? Are the players going to are the Shock going to be in a spot where they can salvage and push forward? Like, are they going to be in a good position to level up and then actually push forward into the playoffs? Or are they going to be on the downtrodden and leveling up to just be a passable team? That's the real question here. And then obviously Valiant needs to win this match. I think even though they're projected to be like the basically the number 6 team, I think they're another team on the list that people wouldn't be surprised if they dropped way down. I don't think people see them go. I've actually seen some projections of them being really high, but I've also seen projections of them being really low. So I think they're one of the biggest potential movers. And we've seen the old Immortals rosters be like that, where they were number 1 in NA and then just completely tanked a season between Contenders season 0 and season 1. So it'll definitely be a close one. We've seen these teams play already, so I've got to base it on that a little bit, and I've got LA Valiant winning 3-2 here. And it's worth noting we're pulling in some fan percentages from High Noon Pick'em. I believe that's where the point.
Yeah, I'm getting them from High Noon Pick'em.
I assume that's where it was from.
Yeah, where we're getting the fan prediction from is when you make your selection on High Noon Pick'em, it gives you the match percentages, like what site-wide across all leagues everywhere, what the percentage of people that are picking, the percentages. It's giving you kind of the community decision, and we're going to use that information to kind of supplement ours. And we've got a 74% of the vote is calling for a Valiant victory.
Yeah, so we are definitely in the majority here. But I think it's one of those ones where I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw it go the other way.
Yeah, this is one I think the fans got this one right. Like, they're about right on how sure they are, and it kind of lines up pretty well with mine. You've all lost your minds on some later ones. We'll talk about those.
Oh, absolutely. But, I almost think it's closer than a 74%, but I think that's because I don't give as much credence to the preseason as a lot of people do. But given that they already have won against them, like I can't fault anyone for picking them to win again. So moving on, we've got the Shanghai Dragons versus the LA Gladiators. Again, Dorado, Anubis, Ilios, and Eichenwalde. Death, what are the takeaways from this one?
Don't forget it's Eichenwalde, and
Eichenwalde.
we'll get yelled at by Germans if we don't say it correctly.
Good.
So listen, this is kind of a redemption story here for Shanghai, right? Like we said, there's going to be a lot of movers and shakers in this in the early parts, and people were very quick to say, well, I mean, Shanghai just got here, like their plane just landed, that's why they looked so poor in the preseason. So it's time to prove it. Like, the Gladiators aren't a world beater team here by any means. They've got a lot to prove on their own. They're one of these Junkenstein's monsters teams, and we want to see Shanghai. I think this is one they have a chance to win, right? Like, if they've been together and they've been scrimming and they're better than we think they are, they should have the ability to win this one. I also want to know if Dia can maintain his ridiculously high level of play. That's definitely something to keep an eye out. We have short amount of time spent watching and analyzing the Korean scene. I can guarantee you we spent less time on the Chinese scene. So I still have a lot of questions about this roster, but the number one is that guy that popped off and looked really, really good to my eye in the preseason. Can he continue? Again, and on the Gladiator side of things, we saw in the preseason them use a lot of like dropping Bishu out of the lineup to bring in 3 DPS. I want to know how much of that we see. And I continue to want to know, I mean, now that it really matters and we can take a lot more information from the playtime information that we get out of these games. Asher versus Surefour. It's a little tough to get them out there at once. They went to 3 DPS to do it before. Can they continue to do that? Because I think if they can play that different style of play, they can really surprise some people. I'm going to take the Gladiators here. I do think Shanghai is an acceptable team. They're a passable team. I'm going to give them a map. But I do think the Gladiators put this one away 3-1, and it'll be fairly decisive.
Yeah, I mean, so I almost went completely like dark horse, like let's just give Shanghai a complete run here. Like let's just pretend that they're actually 1,000 times better than everyone saw them play and thinks they are. But I didn't give them that much. I gave 3-2 win to the Gladiators. And the fans gave an 83% chance to the Gladiators. Again, you know, Shanghai did not look good, okay? And they played against and they lost to Boston. That's really there's your dagger in the coffin, right? Or your nail in the coffin. Is they lost to Boston. But I think, if you go in thinking, oh, Boston's the worst team, and then, oh, Shanghai lost to Boston, who's the worst team, that means they're the worst team. Like, I understand that line of thinking, but I think it's flawed because I don't think Boston is as bad as we thought they were. And I think a lot of people are, a lot of pros are talking about how good the Chinese team is in scrims. Although, like we said before, Scrimbuck's not allowed on Scrimbuck's not allowed here. With that being said, if you're in a pick'em league and you want to have 1 or 2 crazy picks that you like to throw out there just to throw off, this is one of them. I think. Even though they give the fans said Gladiators 83%, if that were like an actual like over under or like a betting odds, I would bet against that. I think 83% is high for Gladiators here. Even though they beat Spitfire, I think they just overall really did not look as good. Really didn't look as good as beating London Spitfire should make you look. So. I did give Gladiators a 3-2 win, but I think that this is one of those games that I could see that this could be a really good game for Dragons to really be like, okay, guys, we're here now, and this is who we are, and this is how good we are. I could definitely see that being the case. More so than a lot of these other matches. There's a couple other matches that are like that for like wacky, like for the Pick'em League, change it. This is one of them, but.
Yeah, I would save flipping this one for like when you're behind later, right? Because as
Sure.
the season moves on, and if you end up behind, you've got to go against the grain to make up that ground.
Right.
I might save like this would be a really good candidate to me if I was down, but
Yeah.
I would leave it where it is for now. But 83% is high. Basically, almost anything over 80%, I think we need to look at and go, all right, well, this is a chance. Like, how confident are we?
Right.
Because if it's even iffy, I might just go against it.
Right, but the pick'em is not a betting odds. They're the fan percentage is not betting odds. So
right.
Let's move right along. We've got this is I think the big ticket match for really. I think this is probably one of the biggest matches that we've seen so far. And this is Dallas Fuel versus Seoul Dynasty on Junkertown, Anubis, Ilios, and Numbani. Death, what are the takeaways?
Big questions I have here are Coco versus XQC playtime. I've been really enthralled by this whole situation.
So many of my leagues.
It's do they really want to commit to dive? Have they been hampered by their inability to run a top tier Winston in the past? If they felt Coco could have done it and they just didn't want to, then we might not see XQC too much. But I'm really curious about that. That's the biggest positional battle that I can really see going into the regular season. Also, comps. I mean, what is that Junkertown composition that you refuse to show us, Fuel? I want to see it. I need to know. I'm not a very patient human being, so thankfully it gets to happen on the first day. On the other side, for the Seoul Dynasty, I need a final decision here on who the second DPS is. We saw Weekheed play really, really well. We saw Bunny play super well. Everybody on Seoul played really well in the preseason. And I want to know who's going to pair up with Fleta. I do think he's going to be on the field or on the stage way more often than he's not. He might get subbed out occasionally. The other thing is, listen, you are everybody's #1 team right now. Expectations are super high. So is the quality of your opponent. You have to start strong here. I really, really want to see if Dynasty wants to stay at that #1 spot, right? And kind of like the clear #1, they have to win this. I don't know that I'll drop them off #1 if they lose it, but the gap will narrow tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
If anything crazy happens here.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Blevins make the note here on the game if anybody's curious on strategy. But I do think the Soul Dynasty win this one 3-1. And the Fuel might take a little bit of time to kind of settle down with their new tank if they have a new one. I don't know, just a little more indecisiveness there to me, other than like an embarrassment of riches at DPS. Like that's not a problem for Soul. It's just a problem for potentially Soul DPS players fantasy.
Right. So this is one that I definitely gamed it. Honestly, like if I look at it on paper, probably a Soul victory here. However, we're talking about Envious here. We forget, people are forgetting the past, Overwatch past so quickly. People forget about contenders so quickly. People forget about how Envious had like a 50-something match win streak so quickly. And yes, they lost in later seasons of Apex, but you have to imagine that they've upgraded and gotten better with the amount of scrimming in practice at such a high level that they've been doing. And honestly, this is one where 77% of the population picks Soul here. And honestly, Dallas is better than 23% to win here. It's just they just are, regardless of whether they're on paper better or worse than Soul. Envious and Fuel, they're a better team than a 23% against anyone. I'm not selling them that short. And given that, I'm giving Dallas Fuel the win 3-2 over here. It's not just about whether they're better or worse on paper. It's not just about whether they can come out strong. It's about there's a lot of what we're going to start seeing, and a lot of what's really, I think, going to be the most exciting thing about following these player stories is the clutch moments that happen. And we've seen Envious in the past have players who just are so good in a LAN environment and are so good at handling the pressure of the high pressure environment. So I think maybe some potential out of game factors and clutch moments here, but my gut and my just basic strategy of going against the grain here is having me pick Dallas 3-2.
Yeah, nobody should be 80% sure that that Soul is going to win this one, and that's basically what it boils down to.
That Fuel is going to lose. Like, think about it that way. Like, okay, oh yeah, there's a 77% chance that Dynasty is going to win, but you're saying that the Dallas Fuel, aka Envious, has an 80% chance to lose. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, there's nobody I would say that about for that particular team. Now, I gave you guys the prediction of Soul 3-1 in the interest of openness. That's not what I've picked in the pick'em because the odds are wrong. But I want to tell you guys who I honestly think is going to win, and I do think Soul pulls it out, but I'm just less confident than the rest of you. So in the pick'em, I did flip it.
Yeah. So moving on to Thursday, we've got the first match of the night: Spitfire, the London Spitfire versus the Florida Mayhem, Dorado, Anubis, Oasis, and Numbani. What are we looking at here?
Well, on the Spitfire side of things, I have exactly one question in this matchup, and that's, do we see any of GC Busan? And then if the answer is yes, why? Obviously their play can answer that question better than anything else can, if we do get to see them. On the flip side of things for the Mayhem, listen, guys, get it together. Okay. you've got to get this figured out. All the work you've put into this game so far, all the time spent was to get you here. And I love the roster. I mean, we've had a couple of the guys on. Mm-hmm. I really, really want to root for this team. They're making it very difficult to root for this team, and I want to see them turn it around and get it together. Can Logix get back on track? Can he get the room he needs to play? It's not going to be given to him for free by the opponent. So it's going to come down to Manitin and Swoosh. Can they give him the space he needs to do the work he needs to get done? Unfortunately, I really don't think that's about to happen. So I'm going to take London 3-1. I do think the Mayhem are in trouble. I think they have weaknesses. I don't think they're a dumpster fire. So I'm going to give them a map, though. I'm going to go 3-1 London.
Yeah, this is another one where okay, so this is what I'll say. Florida, I've been on your soapbox for a long time here, okay? I've gone through countless countless discussions and arguments and bashings about how I'm an idiot for thinking that Florida Mayhem could win even a single map in all of Overwatch League.
And that's just while talking to me.
Right, and that's just our pre-show discussion today. And here's the thing. We've talked ad nauseum about the number of factors that led to them not having a good preseason performance. I'm not even going to factor that in. I don't care about preseason anymore. It's over. What I'm relying on here is the fact that Misfits is a good team. Does Logix have some sort of LAN curse? I don't know. Maybe is a month and a half of practice in the LAN environment going to help him? I hope. I really do. And they don't have subs, so I mean, I'm still not sold as much on the subs strategies and whatnot for them. I don't know. Are they going to stand? Do they stand to benefit the most from the midseason pickups? Absolutely. Because they get some sort of variety. Do I think that them not having subs at all is a complete detriment and they'll never win a game in Overwatch League until they have a 7th player? Absolutely not. That's just not. Again, everyone seems to forget about the history of competitive Overwatch. Like, no one ever had 7 players before except maybe like Immortals and one other team ever. It's just like the game, I don't believe, and I could be completely wrong. We might on Wednesday see Overwatch like we've never seen before, and I kind of hope we do. I hope I'm wrong here, but I don't think we're going to see Overwatch like we never. It's still the same game we've been playing. The same players are playing, and I am, this is a little bit crazy. I'll give it to you, but I'm picking Florida to win here 3-2.
A little bit crazy, but the fans really want you to pick Florida because this is another one where this is not a 97% certainty scenario.
On betting odds, I'm picking them just out of principle because I'm getting such a good rate.
Yeah, this is a spot. This is one of them. I think it's better than the Shanghai matchup, but this is one where I would maybe sneak in a surprise in there. Again, it's the first week, nobody's losing yet, so maybe don't. And I'm not going to, even on the pick 'em. Whereas before I felt like it was like 60-40 in favor of Seoul, and then the internet was like, it's 80%, like it's going to happen. It was, I think this one's like 90% likely that Spitfire taken. So not too far off, but 97's that's very, very certain. I will say that. Like, I think even the Cleveland Browns can muster up 3% to win any one of their matchups in almost any day of the week.
Apparently not last season. Yeah, and I mean, and this is not to mention the fact that Spitfire were still, in my mind, they're still kind of on contested ground. There can always be those dumpster moments where, like, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe they play GC Busan and something crazy happens. I don't know. I still have a place in my heart for Misfits, and I still think that any player with Tvek on it is still going to have a chance to win. So let's move on. We've got Philadelphia Fusion versus the Houston Outlaws on Dorado. Yeah, I've got the button somewhere. On Dorado, Horizon Luda Colony, Oasis, and Eichenwalde. This is your team. Let's hear it.
Well, let's start on the opposite side here so that I don't have to get too overly excited too fast in the map recap.
I've got the green wall button ready. So
for the Fusion, I mean, who are you guys? We don't even know you. Like, do you exist? I don't believe it yet because I haven't seen you. Listen, what questions do I have about the Fusion? How much time do you have? But let's focus on one. How rusty do they look? These guys just landed, like, it was the day we did around the payload. Like, this was like less than a week ago. They're going to have a steep road here in this first couple of weeks, and especially this one here. So I just show up, I guess. I don't know, look competitive on 2 of these maps, and I think the Fusion can feel relatively okay about it because the Outlaws have proven that they can hang with anybody and be competitive with absolutely anybody in this league. So if the Fusion can hang with the Outlaws, then you can build a positivity to that. It can be 3-1 or whatever. There can be some positivity here, even in a loss for the Fusion. On the Houston side, start fast, gain momentum. These guys are rusty. don't like just instantly. I want the pedal to the metal. I want it, just go. And finish. Like, listen, like I said, we've seen you hang with the best teams in this league. We haven't seen you finish against any of these teams yet. And that's what I need to see. I want to see a convincing 4-0 victory here from the green wall. Go Outlaws. Give me that score, 4-0. Listen, I wouldn't want to face any of these teams, like even the basement dwellers on 1 week's worth of scrims versus their 2 months. So I'm a firm believer in Houston. Even if I try to shut off my fanboyism and my bias, I still really believe in the Houston roster. So give me them 4-0.
Yeah, I mean, Houston is one of those teams that, like, they have the fans and the momentum behind them, right? And Philadelphia is like the exact opposite of that. They have no momentum. They have no fan support right now because they just literally didn't play. Their team is already rifled with a scandal and controversy and all that with the Sato, that whole thing, and then they didn't show up for preseason, and they're on like no scrim. They're on very little scrim time. You are very hard pressed to pick the Fusion here. However, they are still a solid team. It is hard to pick a team that's playing against Shadowburn. However, we've seen Shadowburn get shut down in a number of instances. FaZe, notoriously being one of the streakier teams. But with that being said, with the FaZe core and with Fraggy from Giganti, we could see like they have a high ceiling. It's just whether or not Houston is going to give them the room to reach that ceiling, and if they're at the level that they need to be to even reach it at all. So even I am going to be giving the Houston Outlaws a 3-2 victory here.
I like the 2 just to troll me. Fans here are definitely on my side a little bit. Honestly, though, I don't know that they're on my side enough. Like, I don't know how 22% of people are picking a team that hasn't played yet and showed up a week ago. But nonetheless, we've got about just shy of 80%, 78% in favor of Houston.
Yep. And moving on, we've got my team. So we've got the this isn't my team. The Boston Uprising versus the New York course, on Junkertown, Horizon Lunar Colony, Ilios, and Numbani. We've seen this matchup before, Death, but what can we take away here?
Well, I mean, as far as the questions I've got for the Uprising, it's what constitutes a good result here. That's really the question, right? Like, you took a map off them in the preseason, and I will never let Blevins forget it.
Believe me, I get the wake-up call every morning.
Can you repeat that? I need to see that if I'm going to buy into this Uprising team. Can you keep one or two of the maps close? Can you steal one? That's the kind of thing I'm looking for here from the Uprising. I want to see the players that played well. I want to see Note. I want to see Striker, and I want to see Dreamcasper all play well here. I want to see moments from this Uprising team. That is what would constitute a win for me, is if they don't look completely out of their depth. And I'm not sure they did in the preseason, but on the Excelsior side, Jonak is back, and there's a lot of talk. He's one of the best flex supports in the game, and he's from the Korean scene, so I'm not sold on that yet. I mean, I believe he's got that potential. I have no reason to doubt what I'm hearing, but I believe things when I see them with my own eyes, and now's that time. So also, you're on my team, Jonak, so I'm going to need you.
So you're looking to trade him, right? Are you looking...
I have a league where and sorry to interject the fantasy stuff, I have a league where I have Ryuje Hong, Jonak, and Boombox, and those are, in my opinion, three of the better supports you could ask for in fantasy. So I'm definitely open to trading Jonak in at least one league. Also, New York, though, they're unlocked now with Jonak back. Libero's free, and we were promised by Bare Hands when we had him on that he was their Swiss Army knife, that they'd bring him in fun opportunities and use him in weird places, and I want to see it. I can't wait to see it. Please let it be in this match when you've probably got the ability to play around a little bit and not get punished for it. I'm going to take the New York Excelsior for.
Yeah, I'm actually surprisingly, Death, I'm not taking the same score as you here. You said New York Excelsior 4-0. I'm actually going New York Excelsior 5-0. There's somehow, to some weird technicality that we don't know of, they're going to be allowed to play an extra match that New York Excelsior is also going to win. So it's going to be a 5-0. But, you know, for what it's worth, like, I'm in the same boat as you for your Houston match. Like, don't give them room. Like, I don't want to see another map taken off by Boston. Now, granted, I have grown on Boston as a team since, you know, before the preseason. They did show that they can play. They have good players, and they you know, they are a real team. However, I don't like, this is a bread and butter. Like, you win the game you're supposed to win. If anything that's close here, like you said, that's going to be a good result for Boston. And like, from my perspective as an Excelsior fan, I'll take the win no matter what. But from a morale standpoint and a ranking standpoint, like, you need to, this is a match that you not only need to win, you need to win in essentially dominating fashion, or else you look bad. I mean, that's just it's probably a factor of it being early in the season. We haven't seen enough to really, I think everyone's undervaluing Boston, but that doesn't change anything, right? Like, you still need to win in dominating fashion, or else you're going to be losing points in people's minds, which maybe they don't care at all, but that's what we talk about.
If they drop a map here again, I think my flipping Houston and New York in the power rankings will become a very common thing. Then I think if they lose, there's going to be a full-fledged panic button pressed on NYXL. I don't expect that to happen, and for what it's worth, neither do the fans. 85% for the Excelsior to win. In my mind, I'll say this, though. In my mind, this should be one of the most lopsided affairs, and that's not the case. So another one of those opportunities, something to keep in mind if you want to be a contrarian, is what we call that in fantasy, when you go against the grain, even if it's not quite exactly what you believe. So
definitely going to be telling for a lot. I mean, it could, if NY just dominates here, it's not really telling. But let's move on to the Friday matches. We've got Valiant versus Dallas Fuel. So what are we looking at here?
Sure. So on the Valiant side of things, and we're starting to see some of these teams again, so there might be a little repetition here. We'll kind of pick up the pace through the second half. On the Valiant side, I'm very curious about the support play time. We've talked about the DPS play time, but Kariv, Unko, Verbo, what's the support meta? We don't even know, right? Like, I've been operating under this theory that teams are refusing to show their compositions, even their default bread and butter compositions, to anyone until these matches start. So the Mercy meta might have been an optical illusion this entire time. We don't really know. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to balance these support players. Maybe they can keep Unko and Kariv out there at the same time. I mean, Verbo's a very, very good Lucio player. He doesn't make them worse when he's out there, but as far as like pick potential and making up some of the weaknesses that I think that they might have, I think it could very easily come from their Zenyatta player. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the support play time. And to me, if these guys want to be continued to be thought of as a playoff caliber team, it is important that they compete on every single map. You don't have to win them. You can get 4-0'd here and still be okay if you're the Los Angeles Valiant. But I really need to see them come out and compete and really take Dallas to the brink. That's what they need to do to erase and get us to never mention their contenders' performance from last season ever again.
Right. I mean, Valiant needs to pick up a map win here. They need to keep it close. Honestly, like, this is... I'm just checking real quick. This is potentially the first match. Oh no, Fuel Dynasty was the first match of two like prospective playoffs teams, but this is the second, like, as of projected playoff teams, this is the second match for that. So it's really going to be telling. Again, Valiant is one of those teams that can really jump high and drop low. I want to see. I mean, it's worth noting, like, what happens in the previous matches. If Fuel loses to Dynasty, like, do they rebound from it? Are they going to be able to stay on top? If they win, if they win against Seoul and lose against Valiant, that just throws a wrench in everyone's thing, right? Like no one is betting on that. So I mean, there's a lot of potential here to throw a wrench in a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, like this is a Dallas 3-1 win here for me, and for what it's worth, I think the Valiant have the ability to lose here and still, quote unquote, win, kind of like Houston did in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm also going to take a 3-1 for the Dallas Fuel. They should be able to, with some decisiveness, take this one down. And the fans relatively agree. I mean, when we're predicting 3-1 and we see 77% Dallas, it to me says that like the score is probably the same on most people's boards. I think this one's going down. Before it happens, it's going down as a 3-1 Dallas win for most people.
Yeah. Moving right along, we've got Florida Mayhem versus Boston Uprising. And I think this honestly this is going to be another telling match, right? For both teams. Both teams have a lot to prove here. And both teams are swimming in the bottom of a lot of people's rankings. So it's going to be really a match that's going to prove a lot for one of these teams, I think, right? But what are your takeaways, Death?
Yeah, so I hate to do it to you again, Florida, but I need you to sit down and listen to me so we can have a conversation here again. You have a lot at stake here. You've put a lot into this narrative that it's just fine to have only 6 people, right? And on paper, you are the vastly superior team, in my opinion. There's no reason the Boston Uprising should be able to put it together in time to beat a roster that's been alive and having success at the top of the Overwatch scene for as long as the Mayhem roster has under the Misfits name. You need to win this game, because if you lose this match, Florida, you have told everybody that 6 is a laughable excuse of a team. You cannot, under any circumstances, only carry 6 people, because in my mind, the only thing that the Uprising have going for them is the fact that if somebody starts to struggle, they have the ability to swap them out. They can change things up. They can try to do something to flip the outcome. Unfortunately, I just don't see anybody. Like, as good as Stryker is, as good as Dream Casper has been played, they're now up against Tavik, and I don't think they're going to be able to hang with them. So, but with that said, on the other side from Boston, this is their first realistic chance to exceed expectations and get a W. Like, they're not out of this one. All of the negatives, I mean, when I say that the vastly superior team is the Mayhem, that's just on paper. That's looking at the players and just going on star power. The Mayhem haven't played like they've got any star power in a little bit. So this is an opportunity for Boston. I want to see them go out there, get a W. I don't expect it to happen. The other thing I'm watching is Note versus Kalios playtime. As somebody who has Note as their #1 tank in fantasy, I really need to know, are you going to be ceding any playing time? It was 6-3 as far as maps played in the preseason. So I think things are definitely leaning Note's direction. I just want to see that confirmed. Give me the Florida Mayhem in a 3-1.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. 3-1 Florida. I think it would be crazy to think otherwise. Oh my God.
Oh, wait. Fans
picked 60% Boston win here. I think this is the first one where people are just wrong. Like on who they picked, not even like the amount that they picked them. Like, it's just objectively wrong. Like, I would even take a 50-50 here. I'll take a 50-50. Like, you're so down on Florida and you're also so high up on Boston from their, over performance, but you're picking them and wouldn't. No, that's just wrong. It's just wrong. I'm sorry.
The next matchup, I think, is it's more in play. It is, and when we look ahead, I'm just going to kind of skip ahead here. It's Shock versus the Dragons, and the fans have 89% for the San Francisco Shock. I think that one's more likely to go the underdog's direction than Mayhem versus Uprising, and you guys have Boston as favorites. If you have Boston selected to win this game, we got your back. Go switch it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
We want you to win these prizes. We want you to win our prizes. So please go switch it.
You
doesn't make sense.
Have a chance to win.
It's broken.
But let's move right along into the Shock versus the Dragons. Like we said, fans are thinking 89% Shock. What are we taking away from this one?
Well, looking at it, this is another win the games you're supposed to win scenario here, and this one is for the San Francisco Shock. Listen, we'll know a little more, right? This won't be the first matchup for each team, so we'll have seen a little bit of Shanghai. Maybe I revised this, but I'm going to give it 4-0 to the San Francisco Shock. This is an opportunity for them. Like I said, scrape together wins till your roster unlocks and you're at your full potential. Just scrape and claw and keep yourself in the playoff race in any way possible. This is as close to a must win as you can have in week one for a team. Given that situation. So I'm going to give it to San Francisco. I really think they're going to get there. On the Dragon side, listen, it's still all about Dia in my mind, right? Until Undead proves he can come up and compete with the kill feed mania that Dia has been throwing out in the preseason. It's can the tanks give Dia the space he needs to allow them to be successful? Dia looked on par with Baby Bay to me in the preseason. Like, right, they were similar skill, performance, and their heroes. Can the rest of the team give him what he needs? Like, this is the mirror match, right? These guys are on par with each other, the carries. And the other thing I want to know is how are the Dragons using their supports? They've got 3 of them. I don't know a ton about them. Last I knew they had 2 Lucio mains on their team. So I need to see how they're getting split up, how they're being used. And that'll really help kind of flesh out my decision on where I think Shanghai will be this year.
Yeah, I agree mostly about the Shock. I think they're going to win this one 3-1. But again, I wouldn't fault anyone here for just picking Shanghai as your underdog. Like, if you're doing maybe a weekly pick 'em or something, like just for the 1 week, I wouldn't. I think it might actually be a good strategy. They're, I think, underrated right now. So I could see that, but I am picking the Shock to win 3-1. But moving on to the last day, and in our minds, the most exciting day, we've got Spitfire versus Fusion. What are you thinking, Death?
Yeah, so listen, this one's probably going to be a little on the lopsided side, right? So this might be our first opportunity to really see the GC Busan roster come out in the middle of a beatdown and get some playing time in. So I'm going to be really watchful of that. I want to see how they look. And if we can get to the point where we think that roster has a chance to supplement and give this team a little extra something that the main roster doesn't, I might get a lot more optimistic about London. But we'll have to wait and see. This might be the opportunity to do it. And I want to see a dominant team from the Spitfire, regardless of which roster steps out there. This one does not need to be close. This one can be brutal to watch. On the Fusion side of things, this is like, can you steal a map kind of territory? Can you keep them close? Because I think it would be pretty big if we could see this team come in, take a map off of one of the big Korean rosters that everybody's targeting here. Also, what kind of lineup tinkering are they going to be doing with Philly? If things get out of hand, we get to see some of their subs come into play. I think teams would be foolish not to do that. And there's a lot of DPS talent on this team, and I think everybody assumes
Shadowburn.
Shadow. I was stuck on Shadow Blade. I couldn't get off of it. Shadowburn is going to be out there all the time, and that's probably true, but who's going to be with him? There's a couple of different options, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and give them a map here, though. I'm going to say London wins 3-1. I love the Fusion roster. It's just such a shame they're kind of handicapping themselves.
Really bad timing. I'm actually going to give them a second map. I'm going to go London 3-2 here, and the only reason is we don't know enough about Philadelphia just because of the things we've already talked about, and I can foresee an instance here where the Fusion steal win early and London loses in their first match, and it's just all about the momentum, right? Philadelphia going up, London coming down. I could see it. I mean, we saw it with Gladiators. Now there were other factors that led the Gladiators to beating the London Spitfire, but it's not, they're not an unbeatable team like a lot of people thought they were before the preseason. And there's still always going to be those issues that could potentially arise with the two rosters. So I could see it happening. The fans, however, don't really think so with a 92% London victory here. I think that's probably the closest high ball in terms of accuracy that we've seen so far. But moving on to really the only match that you need to watch the entire first week. That's not true, watch them all. But the most exciting one, the New York Excelsior versus the Houston Outlaws. And Death, I know you've got a lot here.
Yeah, I'm just pointing at the sign behind me that I put up.
Not pressing the button. Not doing it.
Yeah, that's fine. Because I get to read the takeaways. And the only thing I wrote on these notes is that the Houston Outlaws will destroy the New York Excelsior 4-0. I wrote it on the paper. It has to be true.
I wish we were on ATP right now. I could just take points away.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, excuse me 1 second. Yeah, this one's going to be really close.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be right down to the wire. I don't know that there's a match that tells us more about what our rankings should be and how wrong they were than this one, as they're kind of in a similar tier. It's tough, man. I don't even know what it's going to come down to at the end, right? Like, we're going to be looking at Pine versus Linkser, and I do think Linkser's got the edge in that one, but I'm not 100% sure where the edge.
I love Linkser. I don't think. Do you remember those old videos? Remember those old, like, the first, like, awesome Widow videos that were ever put out, and it was like, holy crap, this guy looks like he's cheating with Widow on Nepal. That was Pine, man.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I do remember that you're quoting Nate Nanzer from the interview.
Yeah,
so
but I also felt that. But I also felt that.
Listen, that's fine. I could also probably go back in time and find you saying Linkser is the best Widow in the world.
Yeah, no, I've said
pretty
that
sure it's out
times.
there. Because I've said it, and you agreed with it.
I've said that many times.
But listen, I mean, there's a very short list of people that can contest with him, right? If you accept that he's the best in the world, there's a short list of 2, maybe 3 people that I think can compete with him. This is one of them. Pine is definitely one of them. So this one's going to be really crazy. I can't wait to see the Widow duels there. I don't know that there's going to even be, like, this one's so good unless it's a crushing, right? Like, unless it's a 4-0. I don't think there's going to be massive takeaways from this one. I think it's just going to be high quality, intense, phenomenal Overwatch, and we're all going to benefit from it. And by razor thin and super close, and by the New York Excelsior will lose 4-0, I mean, I'm going to give it to Houston 3-1 because I might talk a big game, but I'm not insane.
I am insane, which is why I'm picking Excelsior to win 4-0. But you'll see, I'm going to pick them to win 4-0 every match, except for the one against Boston where I picked them to win 5-0. Honestly, thinking about, like, where the Widow or the Widow duel is super close. And I think on any given day, either is going to be better than the other. I don't think that's the big takeaway here. I mean, it's whoever wins their coin flip on that one, right? Honestly, I think it's going to be the support play from... is the support play from Excelsior going to do better than the tank play from Outlaws? That's where I think it breaks. It's going to be. Can Cool Matt effectively help counter the Widow with Diva, and can Cool Matt shine? Because Cool Matt's the best Diva in the world. Almost everyone would agree with that. So is he going to be able to outplay potentially a top 3 to 5 Zenyatta player in Jonak? So I think that's what it's going to boil down to. Obviously, this is going to be one that we are very hotly contesting, and then we get to be back on each other's team for another few weeks until they play again. But this is going to be the most hotly contested one for High Noon Podcast. So obviously, show your support in Discord as long as it's for the New York Excelsior.
Yeah, I'm stressed on this one. Like, I know what I want to happen. I want nothing bad to happen to the New York Excelsior except for when they play against this team. So, like, it's just it's a rough one. It's going to be brutal. We might be in the same room. We might get into a fist fight afterwards. I don't know. We'll stream it if we do.
No, all you're going to do is release the stink bug that's still in my house.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I got my buddy the stink bug. I'm picking up that cup when I get there.
God, I hope it's dead.
First thing I do.
Let's move on to the last match of week 1. We've got Seoul Dynasty versus LA Gladiators. Any takeaways from this one, Death?
So this is a quote from our Discord from the owner of the Seoul Dynasty. Our goal is to get specific players trained on specific situations and use them for those. So sorry about the spoiler for the interview that's going to be happening later this week. I want to see this in action. I want to see it in play. I want to see it happening. What does that mean? Because, like I said, I do think Fleta is going to be kind of he's the popular MVP pick, right? Like he's somebody that people really have their eye on. He really, really stood out in the preseason. are you going to take him off the field, or like what are you going to do to bring in these people that are specifically trained for situations?
The Cavs will bench LeBron in the preseason and in dumpster time.
Yeah, but I mean that's not the impression I got from Kevin's statement. It's that, you know, we might see on map 1, if the map they think calls for this hero, then this player is going to be better suited for it. Now they've got the DPS where I think they can get away with it, and I don't know that the Gladiators are good enough this early in the season that they can punish them for it if they mismanage it. But I want some idea of how they're going to handle these situations and how they're going to rotate these guys in and out. To teach me more down the line about another matchup later.
Right.
On the Gladiator side of things, I mean, you need to show me you're able to compete here, right? If you want to overtake the other LA team for that playoff spot that everybody's got them penciled in for and nobody's confident about, you've got to be able to compete with these teams. You can't be losing, you can't be losing 4-0 here. So I'm really going to look for the LA Gladiators to try to take a map here. Keep it pretty close. Boy, the fans are very well decided here. I just can't go against them. Fans at 97% for Seoul. I'm gonna give Seoul the 3-1 here, as I'm realizing that I copy pasted my previous pick in.
No, you just were so confident that you thought.
I mean, Houston's winning this matchup too because they're that good.
Yep. This is another one. I'm giving it to Seoul 3-1 as well. What's worth noting here is that if somehow, some way, Gladiators win this one, they will forever be known as the Korean killing domination monster, having taken out London and Seoul. So that would be an interesting one to see. But I don't think it will. I'm going with Seoul 3-1. So who knows? I think that's it for the week 1 matches. Any takeaways from the week? Anything that we should be looking at overall from just the week of week 1?
You know, just some things in general to kind of keep an eye out. You know, do these teams look any different in their second game of the week? You know, it's a weird scheduling, right? Like the pace of their games within 1 week won't be too troubling for them. But I wonder if there's just anything built into it. I don't know. I just need a feel for how it's all going to play out. And now we're not going to have any teams playing a third time, so there's not going to be any added stress there. Everything's kind of leveling out. Yep. Just sit back and soak it in, guys. Like, we've waited so long. Just enjoy the fact that it's here and watch as much of it as you possibly can. And you know, if you're still undecided on your teams, really look for that one moment or that one something that brings out that
one player
unexpected cheer from you that you didn't see coming, right? Just sitting here like, I don't care about these guys, but when you're like, you know, all of a sudden, whoever that is, that's your team. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Like,
and then let us know who it is in the Discord.
Yes. If you're fence sitting at all, now's the time. You got to pick them. So get in there and, you know, stake your claim on your team. And if you've already picked your team, I think in all the content we've put out in the past 2 weeks, I've proven just exactly how obnoxious you could possibly be with your friends. When there's a matchup coming on, don't shy away from that. Blevins, do you hate me more because of, I mean, yes, you definitely do hate me a little more.
100% more.
But at the same time, it all wipes away after the match is over, right? Like no matter what happens, it resets and we're friends again. And I mean,
there's going to be nothing more fun than the Houston versus New York match.
Once it's over, I will think
quote unquote animosity of it. It's going to be the most fun match to experience. It's been the most fun match to think about and talk about. It's going to be the most stressful for both of us. But it's going to be awesome. Yeah,
like I'm not going to be able to look. We're going to be in the same room, not speaking to each other, not looking at each other.
Oh no,
I'm pretty nervous.
I usually am very good at the act like you've been there before, take a win in stride, but no, I'm going to be I'm rubbing it in as much as possible.
See, I think it's gonna be so funny. It's gonna flip because I'm gonna be quiet and just like, okay, all right, just learning, like, you know, because I have nerves, but that's just how I am with football. Even when the Bills play, like it takes 30 seconds after the touchdown scored for me to have that visceral reaction because I'm just like processing it. It's okay.
Ooh, we got there. We got there.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a lot of fun to harass your friends over these games. So pick your team and run with it. That's my advice.
And if you don't have friends to harass, come in the Discord and talk smack there, because we are all doing it and it's super fun.
I can't wait to see our live tournament chat when that kicks off.
Oh, so good.
Forgot how bumping that was in the preseason.
It was very bumping. But let's move on. Finish out the show. Death, I know we have some iTunes reviews to read.
Yeah, we've been a little behind here. Couple iTunes reviews to read. The first one from some buddies of ours from Discord. Gio Say, awesome podcast, 5-star review. Great show and great Overwatch discussion, but also love how you guys joke around. Listen to you guys on my way home and sometimes go back to your older ones, even though they don't really apply, just to enjoy the conversations. Really appreciate it, Gio.
Yeah.
Lets us know we're doing something right if you can go back and listen to outdated content and still enjoy it. That really means a lot. I appreciate the kind words. The next one comes from Gasroll, another Discord guy, diverse competitive Overwatch podcast. This another 5-star review. This is a great podcast that I have listened to for a long time. They have great guests, good content, well-structured sections, and are a joy to listen to. Audio levels were a minor deal, but didn't detract from the overall show. Excited to see where they go once the Overwatch League starts. So are we, man. Really excited.
Woo!
It's ... is a 5-star review from Mikey Do. High noon. Love these guys. Really appreciate it, man. Nobody's used fewer words to tell me that they are definitely a fan of this show. So really appreciate it, Mikey. Thanks a lot. And a 5-star review here from Get Off My Lawn, the only good traditional Overwatch podcast left. Yeah, there's been a lot of podcasts went away, but most of them are rebranding. So make sure you guys check them out.
Make sure you check them out.
Yeah, most of your
favorite
Overwatch podcasters and personalities are still active, even if their show is gone. There's been a lot of falling out of podcasts lately. As Overwatchers is done, the Payload is done. Really, there's only Omnic Lab and this one left. Well, the guys could use a lesson or 3 in making their show sound good. Fair. They make up for it with great personalities, a phenomenal community, and some good laughs. It's worth a listen. Thank you so much, man. Really, really appreciate the kind words from all of you. We will try to not let those go by so long anymore. But Clemens, how we do on time, man? How was that?
We're not at the longest episode ever.
Yeah, like I feel like we're at like an hour 15, and I
close.
expected
hour 20,
close to 2. All right,
yeah,
I like it.
We are getting good at cruising, so that's good. But that is actually going to be it, guys. Okay, we'll get to the 2 hours here because
I forgot we're not done.
We're not done. It's episode 100, man. We made it. So I just want to say thanks to everyone who has stuck with the show. Thanks to everyone who's come by in the Twitch chat, people who've been in the Discord since before it was public, people who have been Patreon supporters for, I don't even know, months and months and months and months, have helped us out so much there and are really helping us start to create what we really envision and what would we really love to do. We're just scratching the surface right now of what we really want to do. We're just now finally starting to actually branch out and realize and do a lot of the stuff that we have wanted to do for the past 2 years. I mean, we talked about basically the concept for Around the Payload, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago, and just never did it.
Episode 6.
Episode 6. Oh, it'd be really great if we just had, Around the Horn as Overwatch. Well, hello, we're going to be recording episode 3 tomorrow. So just all the support, whether it's actual financial support, is always super helpful for us. iTunes reviews, just joining the Discord, just watching the show, downloading the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast place, which you can now get on Google Play. We are on Google Play, so if you're a new Google Play listener, hello and thank you. But just all the support, it's just so it's still crazy, right? And Death, I know you feel the same way. Like, it's just crazy for us to think that people actually listen to us talk every week. Even though
we mention the goosebumps every time, and my camera's probably too bad to show you, but they're always there. And another thing, a couple of you super fans have become more than that, and you've literally joined the podcast family and what we call the High Noon podcast staff. So special individual shout outs: A. Smith, Thorn Rain, Moira, all you guys do phenomenal work for us. You all just started as people that like to listen to the show, and you engaged with us. And when we asked for a favor, you did it. And you never stopped doing favors, basically, is how you got where you are. It means the world to us. You've helped us tremendously. If you didn't notice at the start of the show, it sounded a little different. That's because we have a beautiful, fancy, animated intro now, like we're on TV. And we need to have that because the work Moira put in for that. Same thing goes true for Around the Payload. You guys have done tremendous work for us. Really, really appreciate it. The top 10 videos, everything. We've got the fantasy podcast with A. Smith going to be a host on it. We're going to have the Contenders show with Thornrain going to be a host on it. It's the least we could do to give back. Like words cannot express how much you guys have done for us and how much it's appreciated. Someday we'll make enough money we can like just send you guys gifts and tangibly show you how much we appreciate it. We're not quite there yet, so we'll just have
some really cool ideas for awesome custom gifts that I'm nowhere near affording. But I absolutely would love to do that. And so, you know, huge shout outs to the staff and everyone. And huge shout outs to just the OG fans, right? we gotta shout out Icarium. Have to.
Oh, 100%.
The crazy Brit in Discord.
Lunatic Brit. Barmy Brit.
The Barmy Brit. Icarium has been one of the longest standing fans of the show. And it just will always have something to keep us in check in Discord, no matter what. Whether we're 100% right about something, which we usually are, he'll find a way to disagree.
I always
and just, you know, just huge shout outs to all the other people in the Overwatch community, the Overwatch, you know, Blizzard and the Overwatch podcasting community. It's a big world.
Fish. You've been around forever. We've got a segment of the show named after your old Instagram page.
Yes,
your Instagram still mad at you.
Yep.
All the people that send us pictures of cupcakes and just ruin Levin's day.
Not thanking you. Not thanking you.
I sincerely appreciate all of you that do things like that.
Nope.
Anybody, if you've ever interacted with us, we without a doubt appreciate the support, the fandom, the viewership. Even if you didn't enjoy it, you gave us a viewer. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I don't want it to be too long-winded, so I'm just going to say one final collective thank you to everyone for listening to 100 episodes of High Noon Podcast. Special thanks to all the people we've already thanked. And for the 100th time, guys, that's it. Remember, it's High Noon.
Thank you to Adam Hogg.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
And here's to 100 more.